Good evening and welcome once again to Central Mass Chronicles. My name is Alan Fletcher. I'm your host. My guest to my right, Randy Feldman, immigration lawyer and gadfly. Gary Vecchio, walker and gadfly. Barbara Haller keeps to herself. Citizen at large. Lucky you, this is our year-end issue where we get to talk about what happened, if anything, all year round, wrap it up in a bow and send it your way. First topic, issue of the year and everything associated. What was the most important thing for the city? What didn't work? What did work? What refused to go away? Whatever. But let's start with the issue of the year.
Polar Park? No.
Polar Park, I think.
Polar Park. It has to be Polar Park, right?
And that's also person of the year. That's also state of the city.
Yeah. Right.
It's like
Right.
it's a dominant
we will
theme,
revisit
right?
it in several different iterations.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
no, it definitely dominated. I mean, I've lived in Worcester all my life, and in my lifetime, I've never seen one issue take hold of the city in such a positive sense. Even the old timers that I know that over the years had developed a negative attitude about what direction the city was going and whatnot, definitely. You know, things have been going well for the last couple of years, I believe, for the city. And a lot of people have started to believe that. But I think landing the Pawtucket Red Sox to become the Worcester Red Sox was absolutely the cherry on top of the sundae for just about everybody. So.
You know, I don't know if it's as important economically as it is psychologically. I think, we lost our second-class status when that occurred. And I don't know if it's going to be the economic panacea that everybody hopes it is. I'm not really sure about that one. But I do know it gave the city a big shot in the arm. And like you said, the old timers to the new timers to the, everybody agrees that this is like, oh, we've arrived in some sense. And that's worth a lot, that feeling.
Yeah, I agree. But I think marijuana was a huge issue.
I had that on my
this
list.
year. Yeah. And Worcester's decision to be a player and not fight it, and
it's going to be real interesting to watch that unfold. But so much of the news over the last year has been marijuana milestones. Just the first one opens, and then who's applying for licenses and whatnot, and then this recent sort of debacle in Leicester, which I guess has subsided, mercifully so.
Yeah,
but
people are still complaining. But
everybody converged on that town. It'll be interesting to me to watch the normalization of this. There's been such hysteria around it. To me,
for decades, right?
Well, I guess, but then suddenly it was happening.
Yeah.
The people of Massachusetts spoke and all this, and as I've said many times, I was much more passionate about this issue in the 60s than I am now.
70s,
so I don't care. But I predict and assume there will be a normalization very quickly where people say, well, what in the world was the big deal? Why were we so worried? Plus, it's going to bring a lot of money into the city of Worcester through these community host agreements.
Right. Which I get. I understand that, and it's fine. But I don't like the state and the city making money off of vice. And
okay. I was going to say the reverse. We should now,
now
forge community host agreements with all the liquor stores, which we don't have.
True enough. So I put that out there. And then there's a couple other things. One is the taxes, and the tax rate. And that's the thing why it grabbed me this year more is, we made a $4 million error.
Yes.
In certifying our budget. And so we didn't raise the full 2.5%.
Yeah.
We raised something less than that, and it resulted in a $4 million give back in taxes to the people. But I'm thinking okay, so if we handled that $4 million so easily, did we really need to have all those taxes? Is there a way that we can lower the tax burden on our residents? Because I do think it's increasingly become onerous. And I say that as someone who knows the inner cities and the struggles that people are up against in terms of meeting housing costs, and the talk about moving landlords who own more than three units or 9 units to put them on a commercial tax rate. There is an interest in shifting tax rates and lowering it, and I'm not particularly happy with the conversation that's taken place so far. I don't feel like we're going in the right direction.
And even with that $4 million mistake, which actually worked to the advantage of all the
It did.
taxpayers, everybody's tax bill went up anyway, which really points out the bigger issue that we talked about on our last show, which is the state needing to
Absolutely.
get things right with local aid to gateway cities, with getting it right to local aid to our school department,
Yes.
which is being shortchanged
Yes.
a minimum of $70 million a year. And until the state gets their act together, we're going to continue to have these discussions, Barbara,
Right.
year after
It's
year
just-
after
it's
year.
not going to go away. I had a couple other things I just want to
Go,
throw out.
but
That
don't- we got
vaping,
time.
vaping and flavored tobacco is raising its ugly head. There was just a report that came out that there are more adolescents addicted to vaping than last year. So it's a growing population.
Now, I didn't
and the
even-
tobacco industry is doing what it does best. It's getting us all hooked.
I guess I don't even understand vaping. Is it tobacco? Is it necessarily a tobacco
It's
product? or
nicotine. It's nicotine.
Okay.
It's not tobacco. It's the
But it's the
the
nicotine that's
addictive part
addictive.
of it. Yeah, and you can do it anywhere because there's no smoke. So you know,
Okay.
while we're talking
Yeah.
here, I could look away and I could. So it
But it's
it
not,
takes away
it's
that
not
kind
like
of,
you're sucking a bubble gum flavor and that's it.
Well,
you're
they have
going,
that
You're
too,
going
but-
after nicotine? Is that what, I mean, it's literally...
It's addictive. Yeah, it's
Yeah, it gives you that
addiction
same
related.
high as smoking, but you're not smoking
You're not
tobacco.
taking
and
that-
it's taken over the schools. Like
Oh,
young
yes.
people, oh yeah, they're all going crazy. They're all doing it. Like it's a big problem. Not
Yeah.
a little
Is
problem.
this, okay, so what is it a high? Do they get
Yeah.
excited?
Yeah, like
can
once
they do their
people-
homework better?
Probably. Yeah, I mean, when you smoke cigarettes,
It's
it's
a
like
cigarette.
that kind of
It's a-
high.
I guess. I
Same
haven't
exact-
smoked them in so many years, and
Yeah.
I never
Yeah.
perceived
it's not
it as a high. It was
It's not
just
really
a habit.
high.
Yeah.
But there is a sense of
Charged up.
satisfaction.
Yeah, it's
or-
a little bit of charge.
Yeah,
A little bit
yeah,
of
but
charge.
it's our youth. And so, I say shame on the tobacco company once again.
Mm-hmm.
Surprise, surprise, surprise. They're going after our youth, which is where their profits are.
I mean, one issue that I think the city got wrong, and one issue that doesn't seem to want to go away. One issue that they got wrong, and I hope when they redo it, they get it right, was OFO, the bike company,
That's
which
on
was
my list
which was
too.
a disaster.
But it was
my list
hilarious.
too.
And I predicted that disaster because the way that company operated, you need to have a place where the bikes are, where not just leave them anywhere. And the big thing with me was, how unsafe it was because they were renting these bikes out with no method for people to rent a helmet. Which, if you are 16 or younger, by law, you need to wear a helmet. And I believe anybody who rides a bike should wear a helmet. So that's one I hope the city will get right when they redo it. And an issue that won't go away, we'll be talking about it for the next 10 years, hopefully not, but I think on this show, is getting the recycling system
my
in Worcester
goodness.
right. It
Yes.
makes our city filthy.
Yes.
The current system we have doesn't work. Personally, I'd like to see all the recycling go in clear plastic bags. I think it would
Are
make
they
the
going to
city
do
a
a
lot
pilot?
neater.
I think
I
that
think
They did a
they're gonna do
pilot,
it.
and
Well-
But they're
people
gonna do
loved
another-
it.
they're gonna
And
do
people
another
loved
one,
it.
right?
I thought I had heard that they had made the decision to go to clear plastic.
I
I
hope
think
they
there's
do.
some geography they're going to
Well,
put it in.
Those are all interesting, but none of them rate like the disgrace of letting Notre Dame be knocked
Absolutely.
down.
That's my number
Yeah,
one.
come on
Yeah.
now. Like, seriously. Like, that church was knocked down and the city didn't step in to save it in any form with any idea. I was up in Canada. They make it into libraries. We could have done the library extension. We certainly need a school for high achievers. We absolutely could have had a beautiful botanical garden. Like, there's a million things with someone with imagination, with minimal money, could have done. And you look now and you see those modern buildings that look like Midwest architecture. They're ugly, they're plain, and we lost our jewel. That is the biggest loss of the year, without
I
any
agree.
question.
It's a big loss. You look historically, and there have been a number of churches right down in that area that have gone away. You're just remembering, because
The most beautiful one, right.
late comer.
Yeah.
But it was a big issue, and it did not go away. And very passionate advocacy and a group of people whom you know
Yeah,
very
and
well.
I'm on the committee that's starting to look at what can we do for a memorial.
Oh, good.
So
Yeah.
hopefully we'll get something so
Yeah.
that we won't forget quite so quickly.
So can you tell, I've heard about the bell. The bell has been saved,
The bell
am I
was
right?
saved, yeah. Hanover had said that from the get-go,
Yeah.
that they were going to save the bell. And then we also have what we call the bird cage. So the steel structure
the
that was
top of-
over the
yes,
bell.
yes.
We don't have the full structure, but we have the top of the structure.
Okay.
And so we're just starting the quest.
I can see
to
a
look at where it should
nice
go.
little corner park. I mean, that's my visualization.
And please keep talking about that, because
Okay. Yeah.
and there's good people at the table, and the city manager was very. We've only had one meeting, but he was very good, very gracious, and said, "Listen, it's all open for discussion." You know.
Well,
So-
I see real possibility of just a nice little corner park right on the corner across from the common, so it's an adjunct to the common. Have some seating around, people
Beautiful.
can sit in the sun, and it
Excellent.
doesn't need to be
That's
huge.
what we'd like
but-
to do. That's what we'd like to do. Yeah. So the other issue that I thought was egg on our face as a city was the skate park, right? The skateboard park, and how that got destroyed without involving the community that so
Yeah.
used it, and then the promise that they would find another place to put it, and I don't know what's happening with that.
Crompton Park.
I thought that was rejected. No?
No, actually, that's moving forward.
Oh, it is.
I believe that the people that were involved in that park want other small locations in addition to that, but that one's definitely moving forward.
Okay.
The Parks
Crompton is a good
Committee of
park.
the City Council approved that.
Crompton has good facilities. I think, as the only actual neighbor to the skateboard park, I would say, do you want that thing in your backyard? Because it wasn't an issue of the skateboards. It was the issue of the street people, the shooting gallery, the trash and whatnot. And good thing will probably come of it.
Let's
they'll
see.
get.
Let's see.
Let's see.
But while you are you leaving? I was going to say, while you're mentioning
Yes.
the problems that won't go away, the addiction problem
Right.
in our city is a serious,
And the street person problem.
and the street problem.
Okay, so there's a lot of work to do. I'm getting the high sign, so
Yep.
don't go away. We'll be right back.
Facebook and Instagram are following federal law. They say any advertising for marijuana, you can't have it. Pot shops are saying, hey, you're infringing upon our right to communicate. And you can talk about pot, show pictures of it all you want. Dude. Hey, Steve, check out this flower, dude. You're listening to the Jim Polito Show, your safe space.
People listen to us up in Gardner, Fitchburg, Leominster, Auburn, Millbury, Grafton, Sturbridge. We have Uxbridge. Again, this is not Worcester. We just don't talk about Worcester. We got selectmen on this show that want to talk about town meetings. We're a very great community. All of Worcester County, the people that I talk to each day, that listen to me each day, that watch me on Charter 193 each day. You want to talk to me? I'd love to talk to you.
Local news from Central Massachusetts for Central Massachusetts.
Plastic shopping bags may soon become a thing of the past in Worcester. A 3-alarm fire early this morning displaces residents. Streets in Worcester tonight remain closed to traffic. Fire department responding to a call for a man and his dog who fell through the ice.
Reporters in the field. And an in-depth local forecast. Worcester News Tonight on Charter TV3.
Welcome back to Central Mass Chronicles. Installment number 2 of the year-end is Person of the Year. We might find out, I think, that the issues were more interesting because the issues are not exactly personality-driven. But let's see. I mean,
Well, I have one that just immediately came to mind.
Maybe it's the right answer.
Well, maybe. And it's firefighter Christopher Roy.
All right.
Who captured his
That-
tragedy, his death, captured Worcester and the area around.
Sort of de facto, you're right.
You're right. I had people and I
unrelated
didn't
to
think of that, and you're exactly right.
unrelated to anything he did intentionally. It
Right.
was not as if he was a civic leader or anything.
Well, he
but-
did it his job was
Oh
intentional.
no, I
Right.
understand
To
that.
risk
but-
his
but
life for us.
The
Fair enough.
swell,
Right.
swell of support and sorrow, and from not only the city but around the nation. It was impressive, staggering, really.
Yeah.
The one that came to mind, I certainly wouldn't, in no way would disagree with Barbara's choice. The one that came to mind because of what we were talking about in the first segment, I picked two people that together made it happen. I say City Manager Ed Augustus and Larry Lucchino, because of all the work they put in making the bringing of the Worcester Red Sox here. I selected them as a team for my
Well, they were a
personal
team,
people of
and
the
it
year.
was a long, hard process. Larry is a tough guy.
That's what I hear.
He has his gentle. Have you met Dr. Charles?
Yes, I have.
He has a front man.
Yes, I have. I've met both of them.
But I know that Larry really, really, really respected Ed and the way Ed comported himself throughout the negotiations. And I think that was a genuine factor, really was.
Absolutely, because there's no secret about it. Larry Lucchino did not want to leave Pawtucket, and he didn't want to leave Pawtucket in a way that made it look like they were ditching Pawtucket. I mean, basically, Pawtucket and Rhode Island, in addition to Worcester winning the Red Sox, Pawtucket and Rhode Island lost the Red Sox. And that's the way Larry Lucchino wanted it, from everything I hear from everybody. He's thrilled to come to Worcester, wanted to come to Worcester, but if Rhode Island and Pawtucket had actually made a presentation that was acceptable to him, he would have stayed there. So I agree with you. I think the relationship he developed with the city manager was very important in him making the decision to come here.
Well, I wouldn't include Larry Lucchino because I think he just got a great deal, right? But I would definitely say Ed Augustus did a great job. I would say Mike Angelini and the Crowleys and the business community in Worcester, they did a phenomenal job, right? That's why Larry Lucchino got such a good deal, because they stepped up and stood up in such a big way, right? I would say Cliff Rucker is always on the top of the list because of all the money that he gave. And I would say Alan Fletcher this year joins that
I
list.
agree.
Alan Fletcher.
Just this year? Wait, you're an awful late getting on the bandwagon. Come on.
No, I mean, let's put it this way. All the money that's being spent in Worcester is all money from outsiders who have done development, usually real estate development, in other cities, and think that Worcester might be ready to pop, and it's worked for them other places, and we'll all bring our money in.
And that's
Who
why
knows?
I had put Minkiti
that's a good thing.
on the
Well,
list.
yeah, who knows if they're right or wrong? But the only indigenous, native-born developer that said, I am from Worcester, and I'll put my money on the line, is Alan Fletcher. Right?
Well,
that's why you're on the list.
All right. This is a commercial venture. We have a loan from a bank and we have investors. But I'm thank God for the outside investment, by the way. I remember years and years ago when Med City was happening, and the city hired Ed Logue, who was the famous prior head of the Boston Redevelopment Authority, and an expert. By this time he was 80 years old and he didn't have a lot of neurons left, but he knew how to guide the city through the process. But I remember sitting in his office and him talking about, he said, the single most important and elusive quality that a city can have, and that's the ability to attract outside investment. Because in those days it wasn't doing it, and the tide has turned. I mean, people are genuinely interested, and that's a good thing.
And I just sat down once again with the Worcester Business Development Corporation. I'll add them to the list.
Right.
The fact that they've taken over from the state property, over 44 acres of land at the former Worcester State Hospital, which has never paid taxes, and they are going to develop that into biotechnology manufacturing, and they're actually going before the planning board on January 2nd, 2019 to get the zoning changes to do it. And the fact that they already have one company that's looking at several of those parcels of land, and basically right now they're just debating which parcel they want to build on. That's the future of this city. I mean, it just takes the biotechnology park and is expanding it further.
Well, and if you look back in history, I don't even think I was around at the time, but the original biotech park was an effort, a conscious effort on the part of various civic leaders to redirect Worcester. You know, manufacturing is dead, old manufacturing is, what wave can we catch? And to a certain extent it worked. It was admirable.
Yeah, WBDC is a huge
and Barbara, I cut you off. The Mankitti Group is big.
Huge,
right? They came in, they bought a lot of, like, they're not saying we're going to build a whole new structure over at Polar Park, right? Or we're not saying, you know, Alan helped build the Canal District, so he gets kudos for adding to it, right? But they came downtown. And you know, when I asked around to people, what do you think was a good thing that Worcester did? A lot of people said the downtown sidewalks and the development. And Mankitti, he's the one, him and the son and the father with Paul Morano, like now joining forces, they're really the ones that said, no, I believe in downtown. I believe in Main Street.
So they bought Frank Carroll's business. Right?
Yeah,
They bought the Shacks building.
Right, and they're taking it down and making it look beautiful. They bought the old Performing Arts Center.
They're not taking it down,
I'm
right?
sorry, they're taking
That
down the
facade.
ugly facade
Right.
and making it look beautiful, historic,
'Cause
like
it
it was
is
at
a
the turn of
beautiful
this
building.
century,
Yep.
last century. And then they bought the Performing Arts Center right next to the Denholm building. And they're in the process and will soon purchase the Money Stop building, right, on the bottom of
Yeah.
St. Paul's. And
Yep.
they already bought the courtyard across from the courthouse, that Courtyard Cafe,
That's right.
Olympic.
Well,
like
I
the
hope they
Olympic
make good
Trophies
on it.
place.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's one thing to buy, it's another thing to renovate
And we have
in
seen
the right
that.
way.
We've seen
Yes.
people come in and, you know, the White Knights.
Buy
And we
everything
got
and
our,
then-
yeah,
yeah.
Vios, remember Vios Theodorakis?
Yes,
and,
yeah.
you know, so
He didn't last long.
But let's see. I mean,
Yeah.
there are
I'm all for it.
there are always going to be some failures. You know,
Yeah.
that's part of the deal. And I did forget one, I think, tremendous stride that the city took under the issues is the dog parks.
Yep.
Long time coming.
Do you know if anybody's using the downtown one? There's
You know,
one-
I have never seen anybody in it.
I saw one person.
I walk
Okay.
by it almost every day. I've seen it being used only twice.
Okay, well, but
It's not a very good
hopefully,
location.
Still nice,
hopefully,
still
yeah,
nice.
but presumably it serves people in those new apartments.
Yeah, crossing that street.
They
is a
probably
little-
just go on the common is probably what they do.
Well, we're not allowed. I agree. We're getting the high sign. I will say, since we were just talking about personalities, we shouldn't forget Harriet Chandler and her
That is absolutely
brief
true.
tenure
Brief, but
as Speaker of the,
exquisite.
not of the House, but of the head of the Senate. But I'm getting the high sign, so we'll be right back in a minute.
Local news from Central Massachusetts for Central Massachusetts.
Plastic shopping bags may soon become a thing of the past in Worcester. A 3-alarm fire early this morning displaces residents. Streets in Worcester tonight remain closed to traffic. Fire department responding to a call for a man and his dog who fell through the ice.
Reporters in the field. And an in-depth local forecast. Worcester News Tonight on Charter TV3.
Hi, I'm Dale LePage.
And I'm Jennifer Ankowiak from Charter TV3's entertainment show, WooTube.
Be sure to tune in to WooTube every month for local music and comedy videos.
Oh, baby, give me one more chance. You'll find a way to let me down. Watch it all drip down.
Interviews with local venue owners and upcoming events in your area.
It's your music and comedy videos, all the events you want to attend, and all the places you want to be. WooTube.
You can't get Worcester weather from a Boston TV station. The sun could be shining in downtown Boston, but the weather could be very different here in Worcester. People tell me all the time how much they count on our weather forecast, and we know how important that is to our Worcester News Tonight viewers. Each weekday, we'll give you your weather, your 10-day forecast for right here in Worcester, only on Worcester News Tonight.
Worcester's only local forecast, weeknights on Worcester News Tonight.
Welcome back to Central Mass Chronicles. Our third topic, the state of the city. Where are we at? Is this a golden age? Is it more of the same? Is it, will our hopes be dashed? How do we feel about the city right now?
I think we're teetering on the brink.
Okay.
Really,
The
we're
brink
on
of what?
Whether we're gonna, whether
I want to know what's out there.
success versus mediocrity.
Yeah.
We're teetering on the brink between those two things. And if we're going to have success, one of three things has to happen. We either have to have a large employer who comes in and says, I got jobs, high-paying jobs, and you got the apartments, and we'll fill those apartments with my workers who have high-paying jobs, or we're going to have to develop retail. Right? We can't have a city that has no retail. It's just not possible to work. or we have to finally make the train work so that we become a suburb of Boston, right? It's not worked. To my shock, when we got CSX out, I thought that it would work. I thought we'd become a suburb of Boston. I thought both the inner city and the outer suburbs would all benefit from being a suburb of Boston, and that hasn't happened. So what we're left with is a great city for what could be, and a great city for people who aren't that wealthy, who are in their 20s and early 30s. That we got. But can we become a success, or are we going to live in mediocrity? I think it's still undetermined, and one of those three things has to break our way to become a successful city.
I think you hit on one thing very important, which is the train service, but that's something that's still an active process of being improved. The state and CSX and the city are still working on that, and hopefully we will get more reliable service, and we'll get more service to make it so that more people can use that service. So I agree with you 100%. But I think we're more than teetering on the brink. I think we've gone over to the positive side. But I think to accomplish all the things you said, Randy, the thing that the city now has to start concentrating on, I think development is taking place. Businesses are coming in. I just talked about the initiative of WBDC at the former Worcester State Hospital, where new businesses are coming in. I think the thing the city has neglected, and which is going to be our downfall if the city doesn't concentrate on it, are our neighborhoods and our housing stock. I'm seeing our housing stock in many neighborhoods deteriorate at a rapid rate. I am seeing our three-deckers. We are a city of three-deckers, and I'm seeing the quality of that housing stock go downhill. If the city doesn't take the bull by the horns and find a way to increase owner-occupied three-deckers, then we've just gone to the positive. We're going to go back to the negative.
No, am I right? I was going to ask you the question, but I think you answered my question. Is this an artifact of the sort of the 80s and when all of a sudden outside investors were buying up three-deckers because they thought this was the cat's meow?
Absolutely, Alan. I think it's a fact that so many of the three-deckers now are not owner-occupied.
Right. And historically they were, and that's what.
And the rents are just really high.
Really.
Yeah.
And they're leasing out rooms rather than families.
Yes.
There's all this. Yeah, I agree completely that. And people have spoken about the need to focus on the housing in the neighborhoods, but I haven't seen it.
Right.
I haven't seen it.
You know, and I think the city has to
We've
start.
done the parks, I got that.
Yeah.
The city has to start getting creative. I mean, one thing I discovered not too long ago was in Albany, New York. I think everyone probably who watches this show is familiar with Section 8 housing, where the people get a subsidy to help pay for their rent. But in Albany, New York, they give Section 8 to people to help them pay for their mortgages, to help them to buy the three-decker, not rent an apartment in a three-decker, but that they need that help to buy it and take ownership and improve it and stabilize the neighborhood and prevent gentrification down the road. That's the type of thing that Worcester just hasn't done. We need to get creative.
I was disappointed when we had the free cash conversation, because that would have been a great opportunity to put some funds aside to come up with this plan for saving our neighborhoods and our housing stock. And so I was disappointed that it still hasn't gotten high enough on the list. And if it doesn't get up there,
we're in trouble.
I hear you both making the implication that it's really home ownership, the loss of home ownership, erosion of home ownership.
Well, it's got to be. You know, when you have a triple decker, there's one owner and two other units.
Which is
you know
the beauty of
So
them.
you're creating both.
Right. Yeah. But when you live in that house and you own it, you make sure that the people who come in are
I
quality
agree.
people. Because
you got to live with them.
Yeah, that's right. You got to live with them.
Yeah. I'll tell you one last thing that I don't enjoy about Worcester. Well, I went back home to my hometown. I grew up 1 hour north of New York City, Peekskill, New York. You walk in and you see people of all diverse backgrounds and colors and ethnicities together when they're beyond their 20s. It's not just a dance club in their 20s. You have that in Worcester in some places. But other than that, you don't walk into any place and see all these different kind of people all together. And you do in real cities. And I miss that.
Okay. We haven't solved all the issues, but it's been a great year. Thank you for tuning in, and tune in again next time. Thank you.